Heartbreaking Wisconsin. Tonight, a teenager and teacher at the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison are dead. The suspect, a 17-year-old female student, according to the Associated Press. At least 6 injured, including 2 in critical condition. Later this hour, police in Madison will take to the cameras with the latest details. And when that happens, we will take you there live. But first tonight, here from the Hill, the $100 billion investment pledge. How Donald Trump could pardon New York City's mayor, and why he says the mysterious drones are no secret. That's Topping the Hill on NewsNation tonight.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows.
So he used to be the commander-in-chief, and in 35 days will be the next one. And tonight, President-elect Donald Trump says the government knows exactly what is in our skies. The bipartisan disbelief growing by the sighting as what's believed to be drones continue to light up the night sky. Some reported to be spotted in New Jersey, New York, over an Air Force base in Ohio, California as well. And consider this, our Joe Khalil asking the longtime Senator Tim Kaine today if the Defense Department is actually shooting some of these objects down without even telling us.
I'm not sure I can answer that question without getting into classified information.
Past hour, the White House has come out and laid out further detail after they say they surged resources.
The sightings to date include a combination of lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, and law enforcement drones, as well as manned fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, and even stars that were mistakenly reported as drones. We have not identified anything anomalous or any national security or public safety risk over the civilian airspace in New Jersey or other states in the Northeast.
Chris Smith is a congressman from the state of New Jersey and is urging the Pentagon to bring those down. And the congressman joins us live here on the Hill. Congressman, thanks for being with us. You just heard from John Kirby there over at the White House. What say you?
Well, I think it's very misleading at best. If he knows something, he should say it. To say that sightings that people in the Coast Guard, in the United States Navy and Naval Air Station, Weapons Station Earl, which is in my district, they've seen drones at and right in close proximity to that munitions depot. People at Picatinny in like manner. Many law enforcement people have seen it. They've seen it in a way that suggests formations that are coming off the ocean into the land. And even with the Coast Guard, I spoke to one of the commanders who said one of our 47-foot rescue boats, right on its stern, were between 12 and 30 drones following close proximity to that. I mean, they had no idea who they were.
What do they think that was?
Yeah. Oh, they think it's drones. They don't know. I asked them about the rules of engagement. If they get too close, what do? You know how to interdict people who are carrying weapons as well as drugs. What do you do if there's a drone that's right on your tail like that? So they said they're seeking advice. I haven't heard back what that advice yet is. So I think this idea, see no evil, hear no evil, it is reminiscent of what we saw prior to 9/11, what we've seen many times with the Department of State. I wrote a law called the Embassy Security Act back in the year 2000. It is the law of the land. We had 2 of our embassies bombed by al-Qaeda. One was in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. The other one was in Kenya, in Nairobi. There were warnings that went unheeded. There were requests for additional munitions and help and visual aids. They got none of it. So I wrote a law that did setbacks and did all kinds of other things, and it's the law of the land. I'll never forget when Admiral Crow, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff previously, testified at my hearings. He was in disbelief about how there was a culture of denial. Now, if these things are nothing but benign influences, they better speak to us now.
Congressman, can you still hear me? I saw you were messing there with your earpiece.
Yeah, it did fall out a minute ago. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I didn't hear you.
I just heard you start talking, though, about 9/11. You're ready to go there?
No. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
We have to be very careful that we look at signs. There were all kinds of signs prior to 9/11. My brother was an airline pilot. He kept saying, why are those doors to the cockpits so weak that a person who is not even a black belt with Taekwondo could take one out and get to the pilots?
Okay.
And and I raised that issue over and over again, and nothing was ever done until afterwards, when obviously they had access to our pilots.
A couple more questions here. Who told you in the Coast Guard that story that you were talking about?
I have his name.
What's the position?
I
What's
have
the
his
rank?
name. He's a commanding officer. Well, he's a commanding officer from the Barnegat Coast Guard, and he was with me and the sheriff when we were on the beach, and I have his card right in my pocket, and we talked about it. He's the one who told me. I hadn't heard about it before. Okay. That was about a week ago. And I talked to the commanding officer at Earl, Blake.
Yeah.
The commanding officer told me that his guys looked up and saw a drone right near the rail line that takes our munitions to the pier, which are then unloaded onto ships.
So I hear what you're. Yeah, so I hear what you're. So here's what the White House says, and this is kind of where I'm stuck, because they said today that it's lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, manned aircraft, even stars. Okay, and that they have this information after they quote unquote surged resources. So do you believe that Doug from Hoboken or Susie from Morristown in your state, right? I see you laughing because you know where I'm going. Doug from Hoboken, Susie from Morristown flies a drone up in the air, whether it's a lawful commercial drone, a hobbyist drone, and the United States government, with its $800 billion Pentagon budget, needed to, quote unquote, surge resources to figure that out?
Why did we know it right off the bat? By day one, we should have been saying, this is what it is, and responsible parties should have been made aware of it, including our governor, who has asked for more information, which he has not gotten. Maybe he's getting it now. I've talked to the head of the state police, who's an excellent leader, and he... I have a bill I'm introducing that will at least vest authority into the state polices of all of our states to have the capability to discern what these drones are and others that might follow, and also, if you have to bring them down. Remember, they're unmanned drones, so if you do it in a place where there's no population, like over the water, right, you can ascertain what it is, who they are. And again, as you know, Blake, the warfare has radically changed. Where drone warfare, look at Ukraine, look at the Middle East. It has become the go-to method of delivering packages that include ordnance.
So I'll leave you with this, Congressman. Is there a world that exists where Donald Trump is right, as he said today, that the government knows what this is, while also what we heard out of the White House today, that they know what this is and no worries? Is there a world that both of those exist together, in your view?
Well, unless the president-elect has been informed, and maybe he was briefed, but who's briefing? How accurate are they? We don't know that. I mean, there's been a dearth of information. I mean, thankfully, the news media has jumped on this and asked the hard questions. We're asking the hard questions, and it's bipartisan. Look at the governors of New York and New Jersey who are asking hard questions. Okay, you surge resources, but it does show a vulnerability, no matter what this is all about, of us, mass events, whether it be the World Cup or whatever it might be, a football game, that we've got to be much more proactive in mitigating danger to Americans than we have been. It's just too easy to fly something like a drone to a place where people will get hurt.
Congressman Chris Smith from the state of New Jersey, in the middle of it all. Thanks for being with us here on the Hill.
Thank you, Blake.
Appreciate you, sir. Come on back soon. All right, joining me now
here
on the Hill, Mick Mulvaney, former Trump White House Chief of Staff, NewsNation contributor, Julia Manchester, national political reporter for TheHill.com. Hello to you both. I'm trying to get the exact quote because you were laughing.
I was laughing a little bit
at the
Tim
I don't
Kaine
mean to
comment.
throw this in your face. The
Yeah.
Tim Kaine comment. So Joe Khalil asked Tim Kaine, sitting senator, longtime senator, is it possible that they're government shooting these things down over the water, and we don't know about it. And he basically alluded to classified information.
Yeah, what he said, I can't say yes or no because that gives away classified information, which could be...
And that had you laughing. Why?
Because you're not supposed to say that.
Okay.
That it could be true. If I say no, then that gives out classified information, and I can't do that. And if I say yes, that gives out classified information. I can't do that. But also saying, if I say yes or no, I'm giving out you can't do that. What you say is, I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. Listen, there's a bunch of crazy stuff going on. Some of this stuff, by the way, what the guy at the White House said is absolutely correct. I've seen some of these videos. People send them to me. Right. I saw one. Oh, there's a drone. It was clearly a Southwest Airlines jet. Okay. on the internet yesterday, there was, oh my goodness, this is a drone. It was a star out of focus. But there's a lot of things that are not explained. And I think Donald Trump, to your point that you asked, Chris, the congressman, is Donald Trump onto something? Yes. I think you and I have talked about this in the show earlier. I did it maybe earlier this week. The government knows what this is, okay? It's not from outer space. It's man-made, so the government knows what it is. They're just not telling.
So you have criticized the Biden White House when they need to be criticized. You have praised the Biden White House when you believe they deserve to be praised. Where are you here?
I think they're not telling us everything they know for a reason. There's a lot of stuff.
Your best guess.
There's a lot of stuff the government does that's classified that they don't talk about. Are they doing research on drone technology? Are they looking for something? Are they practicing something? I don't know. There's a lot of things that legitimately the government does that they don't tell the people about, and that's okay. But you can't lie and say, oh, we don't know what it is. Oh, it could be anything. So
here's the thing. Congress has lots of questions.
Yeah.
Is this the thing that Congress is going to solve and fix, or good on them for keeping pound the table and sunshine and transparency and all that?
Well, good on them, and also good on a number of governors, both Republican and Democrat, for asking this question. Gavin Newsom, Kathy Hochul, Glenn Youngkin, Phil Murphy. I mean, for Glenn Youngkin, Virginia, home to so many military bases, national security facilities. That's got to be so incredibly, concerning, and especially just the national security, the potential risk of it if you don't really know. Of course, your mind is going in a million directions. Look, we live in an era of Chinese spy balloons. Yeah. The risk of that.
We all saw that.
This is what we're seeing. So, of course, we have these questions, and the administration, the government have their reasons, like Mick said, for not telling us. But we're going to continue to, ask those questions because we see the spy balloon.
And Julie makes a really good point. Look, there's all sorts of conspiracy theories on the internet about 1,000 different things.
That's it.
Something percolates up to the level having a governor of a state reach out to the federal government and say, could you please tell me what this is? It merits a proper response, and they're just not getting it.
Leave it there. See you both later in the show. Appreciate you both. Still to come here on The Hill, we're expecting a police update on that deadly school shooting in Wisconsin. Here in about 15 minutes or so, when that happens, we will take you to Wisconsin Live. Plus, did you hear what Donald Trump said today about China and the U.S. coming together? Peter Navarro, the president-elect senior advisor on trade, who has sat at the table with the Chinese before, joins me live here on The Hill. I'm Blake Berman. Welcome to Washington. This is the center of politics. You're watching The Hill here on NewsNation.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. Meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. President-elect Donald Trump moving ahead with his agenda, announcing a $100 billion investment with the Chinese venture firm SoftBank. Over the next 4 years, the investment aims to build out artificial intelligence and create some 100,000 jobs here in the U.S. Now, SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son joined the president-elect for his press conference earlier today. Trump already negotiating for more.
I'm going to ask him right now, would you make it $200 billion instead? He can actually, believe it or not, he can actually afford to do that. Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but, he's now asking to do more. I will try to make it happen.
That's good. All right, 200. He'll make it happen. 200 million investment.
He is a great negotiator.
See how that goes. Joining me now, Peter Navarro. He's been named Trump's senior counsel for trade and manufacturing. He's also the former director of the U.S. Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy in the first administration. Peter, nice to see you, sir. Thanks for being with us.
The art of the deal, man. He's just having so much fun.
So we saw
that man is having so much fun, and this country is going to be so much better off.
So we saw sort of a similar scene back in, we were just talking about the transition in 2016 when Massa came up and said, yeah, we're going to invest $50 billion.
Yeah.
The Vision Fund had its successes, it had its problems, right? It lost $27 billion, I think, back in 2022. Why should we believe that is going to play out like Trump and you could say the country hopes it will?
Because the country is going to be in a much better shape now that Donald Trump has taken over. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But this is like the tip of the iceberg, Blake. We're going to see a lot of people investing in America, both domestically and foreigners coming in because of President Trump's America First policies. And that's going to be a very, very good thing for this country.
You were worried, though, about the current administration, the Biden administration, handcuffing, essentially,
yes,
the incoming team with some new appointments to the International Trade Commission. And if that happens, how much does that hurt what the president-elect could potentially do?
So the predicate here is the International Trade Commission is that portion of our government which uses what's called countervailing and anti-dumping duties to stop trade cheaters. Okay, it's one of the oldest forms of tariffs that we impose on cheaters. And I have a personal experience with that. Back in 2017, one of the first things I did at the White House was help the iconic Whirlpool Corporation go before the ITC and get protection from the Koreans and the Chinese who were just hammering it. And a year later, I went to the Whirlpool factory in Clyde, Ohio, and I saw these washing machines coming off at a rate of one every 4 seconds, right? So what the Biden administration is doing with a little help from Mitch McConnell this week is trying to pack the ITC. They've put 2 appointees in there that in a kind of almost a backdoor kind of way to get them approved. There's Haley Craig, who opposed everything President Trump ever put forth, not just steel and aluminum China tariffs, but also even renegotiating NAFTA. There's a guy named James Coughlin who makes his money and pays his mortgage by defending communist Chinese who cheat. Now,
you have concerns. It's fair to leave
huge concerns. But this is an easy lift. Are you listening? Senate. One person in the Senate can block unanimous consent of this. So on Thursday, they're going to go to markup. On Friday, they're going to take a vote. I'm asking somebody in the Senate to step up now and stop, kill this baby in the crib, because it's bad for America. So Donald Trump had a landslide break, Blake, and this is not what is supposed to happen in the Congress in the lame duck session when a president has a landslide.
Let me ask you about China, because you sat at the table in the first administration as one of the president's top critics of China, if not the top critic, right? Here's what Donald Trump said today at that press conference. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
If you'd like to come, I'd love to have him. China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world.
Come together and solve all the problems?
I was at Mar-a-Lago, Blake, in the first administration in 2017, April. You were probably down there covering that when President Trump met with Xi. I was there on different occasions down in Argentina and Osaka when he met once again. They have a relationship which can be productive dealing with things like Ukraine and Gaza and oil and all of that.
Okay.
So what we do is we trust Donald Trump in developing relationships with Xi, with Putin, with whoever is out there, Erdogan in Turkey, people the left doesn't like because of their obvious authoritarian methods. Yet for the good of this country, we have to let the boss do his thing in order to get the best deals for America. Let's see what happens.
Softening on China, Peter
Navarro? No, not at all. Okay. We had that kind of relationship. Let 1,000 flowers bloom, as the Chinese might say, but we slapped them hard with tariffs, and we were the toughest presidency on China ever. And they're taking us apart now, and we've got to do something about that.
Let me leave you with this, because you were in the news today. Supreme Court won't block order directing Peter Navarro to turn over emails. They were emails from your time at the White House. The National Archives and Records Administration wants them. You're going to turn them over?
That's a civil suit. That was a small part of the appeal. Let's see what happens in the next stage. This is a constitutional issue regarding privacy. Can the government come in and invade your privacy, take your email? So this is a sideshow to a sideshow of my bigger case that will go to the Supreme Court on the constitutional separation of powers. I'm going to do what my lawyers suggest, but this is a long process.
Long process. Okay. Leave it there, Peter Navarro.
Good to see you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it. All right. Still to come. Here on the Hill, live pictures from Madison, Wisconsin. Police will give an update in just moments. The deadly school shooting there today. Police tell us they should be speaking in about 5 minutes or so. And when that happens, we will take you there live. The heartbreaking scene in Wisconsin. Stay with us here on the Hill. We're back in a few.
This episode is brought to you by Global X. Since 2008, Global X ETFs has been committed to empowering investors with unexplored, intelligent solutions. Global X specializes in exchange-traded funds that offer exposure to the artificial intelligence ecosystem, including themes like data centers, robotics, semiconductors, and cloud computing. To learn more about Global X's entire suite of ETFs, from covered calls, fixed income, emerging markets, and more, visit globalxetfs.com.
There might be a presser. If there's a presser, I'll just jump in. Welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. Any moment now, we are awaiting another update from police on the deadly school shooting at the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. A teacher and a student dead, as well as the suspected shooter, a 17-year-old female student, according to the Associated Press. NewsNation national correspondent Mills Hayes is at that press conference, set to take place any moment now with the very latest. Mills?
Hey, Blake, we're here at one of the fire stations in Madison, and we do know that police say that it was a 17-year-old female who is the suspect. 3 people have died, including the suspect. One person was a teacher, and then another person was a teenager there. And we also spoke with some parents that were on the ground at the reunification center who told us that it was very scary to hear that their child's school was involved in a shooting. And police tell us that it was a handgun that was used in this situation. And we also know that police didn't even open fire at all. Whenever they arrived at the scene, they arrived to all 3 of those people had already been shot. And so this is something that many of the students, or we spoke with at least one student, on the ground when he was leaving the reunification center, a 12-year-old 6th grader who said that he was just really happy to see his mom after everything that happened, and his mom saying that she really just doesn't want this to be the new normal and that something needs to be done because this does not need to keep happening. And we continue to hear from police that we don't know a motive yet, but we may hear in just a couple of minutes what a potential motive might be. They say they're still investigating, and they do say that the suspect's family is cooperating as of now, Blake.
Hayes, live for us in Wisconsin tonight. Mills, thank you. And when that press conference happens, you'll see it here live. All right, meantime, invitations for Donald Trump's inauguration are starting to pile up. And what about daylight savings time and its future? Our Kelly Meyer is here with what's happening in and around the Capitol. Hello, Kelly.
Hey there, Blake. Well, at least one world leader is putting in his RSVP before Trump's inauguration. Reports say Argentina's president will attend. If so, he would be the first foreign leader to attend since 1874. And will China's President Xi attend? Well, here's what Trump had to say today. Take a listen.
I don't know that he won't be at the inauguration. I mean, I haven't really spoken to him about it. I don't know that, actually. I would say that if he'd like to come, I'd love to have him.
Today, Trump said he has spoken to more than 100 world leaders since being reelected to the Oval Office. And will daylight savings time finally be a thing of the past? Donald Trump taking aim at the practice of turning back the clock, saying, quote, the Republican Party will use its best efforts to eliminate daylight savings time, which has a small but strong constituency, but shouldn't. Daylight saving time is inconvenient and very costly to our nation. Blake, the current daylight savings time law was signed into law in 1966 by President Lyndon Johnson.
60 years ago, 58 years ago. Kelly, thank you. How was the walk from there to here? Fine? We made it? We did it? We're good?
Yeah, I didn't trip over that step.
There we go.
Good.
Kelly in the Capitol. Thank you. Full panel here with me now. Mick Mulvaney, former chief of staff in the Trump White House, NewsNation contributor, Julie Manchester, national political reporter for TheHill.com. You know Meyer by now. And Scott Bolden, NewsNation political contributor. All right, so you've got some experience with this because you tried to do this, turn back the clocks in the first administration, and you went nowhere fast.
Yeah, I'm assuming when Trump put that out, he wants to get rid of standard time and go on daylight savings time all of the time. So later, longer. Now, that may be different. I'm not sure. But we talked about doing that in 2019. And as soon as we put out a tweet or said something about it, it took about 30 seconds for Chuck Grassley to come down from Capitol Hill and remind us that all of the farmers liked standard time because they don't like working in the dark. That's one of the reasons we go back off of daylight savings times to move the light forward. Now, there's also another constituency, which is moms with kids who take the bus in the morning because it's darker longer in the morning, and they don't like their kids waiting for the bus in the dark.
And remember, we did see this change during the Nixon administration. It was because of those kids going to school in the morning. There were actually some fatalities across the country when this was tried out during the administration. So there's precedent for it.
Yeah, I need my extra hour.
Blake and I want to play golf at night.
That's the reason.
But fall back. Fall back.
All right, meantime, is it just a criminal act or just following the law? Parts of unused southern border wall are being sold off on a third-party website. President-elect Trump today suggesting that borders on illegality.
The administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it.
But the Defense Department tells NewsNation they're just following the National Defense Authorization Act, which is passed by Congress. It says in part, quote, the Defense Department told us, quote, federal departments in 2 states, California and Texas, claimed as much of the excess materials as they wanted. The remaining materials were then sold off instead of paying the additional cost to store and secure the materials. So Donald Trump coming out today and having his moment with this, but these guys put him in that situation.
Yeah, and we actually got that from the Pentagon earlier today, talking about how they transferred and the process, the donation process, 60% of those materials transferred to the authorized recipients, and then 40% sold off to GovPlanet under competitive sales contract process. That began in June 2024. So this was already in the works for quite a while now that they've been doing this.
You say there's an easy fix to this.
Elon buys it. I don't know why they haven't.
That's
seriously. That's absolutely the fix.
How so?
Why would Elon buy it and sell it back at 6 cents on the dollar, make a penny off? No, I'm dead serious. When you've got that much money, why aren't you buying this kind of stuff?
Yeah, but what I don't understand is if the
really hold on, really? Yes, you think that's the solution?
Why Trump doesn't pick up the phone and say, Elon, why don't you just buy this? I'll buy it back from you in 30 days, but buy it now for 5 cents on the dollar.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, but if only 30 to 40% of the wall is done. Here's the part I don't get, and most Americans won't. If it's in the Authorization Act and only 30% of the wall is done, why do you have excess material? Why not continue to use the excess material until it's used up, and do it in a way that doesn't extend the timing? Because they've got to do it by the end of this year, I guess.
I guess the question is, how did we get to here?
You're right. Well, so in that clip, we know that Trump is referring to video that was obtained by a very right-leaning website, the Daily Wire. He's referring that's definitely a website that's going to be read by a lot of his constituency, his supporters, obviously. But look, I mean, immigration is certainly in the headlines. This is how Trump continues to talk about it and push that narrative forward and pushes back on the Biden administration.
Why did Congress allow that to happen?
Oh, it probably ends up where they bought it, and the previous administration had the authority to buy it, and they did, and it was up to this administration to put it in the ground, and they didn't, and now it's legal for them to sell it off as excess. There's a lot of wiggle room in these. Keep in mind, you're talking about, I can't remember what the appropriation was for the wall, but it's tens of billions of dollars. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Remember, the Langford bill had this wall being extended, and the money's being used, and the materials being used. Oh, I forgot the Republicans killed that.
Oh, you're still talking.
Yeah, no.
But
I come in love and peace.
Let's give him credit. But if everybody says that there's a new deal to be had on immigration, and I think there is, it would be nice if we still had the stuff out in the out to go up on the wall, because any deal that involves dreamers, involves dealing with the folks who are here, is going to involve border security, which at some point is going to involve more wall. But we're giving away the stuff we're going to use.
Well, it's a timing issue. But listen, give Elon a call.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. That idea. See what you're saying? A little
creative idea.
A little arbitrage. Yeah, what's wrong with the little arbitrage play? All right, still to come here on The Hill. Live pictures. Madison, Wisconsin police. We are told we'll give an update any moments now on the shooting there. When it happens, we'll take you there live. The Hill here on NewsNation. Back in a few.
How can we get more news agencies to have better coverage like NewsNation?
Quick answers. 1, you got NewsNation. What else do you need?
Cuomo, weeknights at 8, 7 Central, only on NewsNation. News for all Americans.
Looking for a great non-alcoholic beer?
Yeah.
Try Athletic Brewing Co.
One that actually
tastes great? It's athletic.
Or that has a
variety of styles? It's athletic.
Or
that's award-winning and seemingly everywhere? It's athletic. Just ask for it.
Okay. Can I get an athletic?
Sure can. The rest of you, go to askforathletic.com and find the #1 non-alcoholic beer brand in the U.S. at a retailer today. Near Beer.
Homoglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. Seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry. They even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using Homoglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
Welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Live look now. The police chief there, Madison, Wisconsin, giving an update on the events, the school shooting earlier today. Let's listen in.
I would. As a father, but we are fortunate that process is complete. As such, I want to thank the Dean Clinic. This clinic actually shut down their doors today in order to provide a space so that students who survived this incident could be reunified with their loved ones, and we thank them for doing this. At this time, we're still working on a motive, trying to determine why this happened. We know that there is some information that may be circulating about the shooter. I cannot, at this time, formally tell you the age or gender or name of the shooter. We do not want to compromise any part of the investigation, but it is important to note that later today at 8:30, I plan to give an additional update, and I believe at that time we may be able to give you the answers to some of those questions. Here's what we know again. We have 3 people who have lost their lives. 2 of those people were persons who were pronounced dead at the scene, and 1 while on the way to the hospital. Of the 6 injured and taken to local hospitals, 2 students remain in critical condition. Their injuries are life-threatening. A teacher and 3 other students were taken to area hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. 2 of those victims, 2 of those survivors, have been released from the hospital. So that is an update. Officers were dispatched to Abundant Life Christian School at 10:57. I can confirm that the first officers arrived at 11 a.m. and immediately went in the building 3 minutes later. The Crime Response Unit of Dane County District Attorney's Office, assisted by the Dane County Emergency Management, and we're mobilizing our Mass Violence Critical Response Team. Once again, our Mass Violence Critical Response Team has been notified. This is a group of people trained in responding to victims of mass violence, which includes social workers, attorneys, victims, professionals, former law enforcement, and members of our community. If you need further assistance or want to know how you can help, you can contact the Crime Response Program. They have a daytime number of 608-284-6908. They have an after-hours number for those who may want to help at 608-376-0164. 608-376-0164. Pre-planned or planned shootings, we believe, are preventable. If you see warning behaviors from someone that is planning an attack, say something, do something. And you can report this at 1-800-MY-SUSO1, 1-800-MY-SUSO1. At this time, joining us is Director of Advancement, Barbara Weaver.
Thank you. I understand there's questions regarding the school. We're happy to answer those to the best of our ability. We have been incredibly supported by Madison Police, Madison Fire, and the paramedics. They have been absolutely amazing to us. It was quite an afternoon for the reunification process, and we had so many people stepping up to help. Our families were amazing in their patience as we worked through this. We are so grateful from the president up to the governor, the mayor. We have had so much support. This has obviously rocked our school community, but we know it affects not just our school community, but Madison and the greater area and all schools. And so our hope is that there will be some good that comes out of this as we can learn and grow and continue to support other schools.
Okay, we'll take questions. Scott, you got first. Craig.
Chief, can you give us any details about if there are any warning signs that premeditated this, either at the school or with the family or elsewhere, that would have caused any red flags?
Yeah, that's what the officers and detectives are working on now. Hopefully this afternoon at our fourth press conference, I'll be able to answer that a little bit further. But right now, I cannot tell you. They're still talking to parents who are cooperating. And so hopefully we'll be able to give you a more detailed response as to any warning signs or anything that we may have possibly known prior to this.
All right, Maddie from WISC.
There's been heavy police presence at a home on the north side. Can you confirm if that's related to this?
I can confirm that it is related to this, and everyone is cooperating. And so hopefully later today, if you stick around, we'll be able to give you more information about that and what we may have learned from that process. Again, this is a situation where students, teachers were injured and killed, and everyone wants to cooperate. Everyone wants to give as much information as they can so we can piece this together for our community.
Okay, Phoebe from Wisconsin Watch.
Yeah, hi, Chief. So accounts online are sharing doctored and debunked photos to push a narrative about the identity of the shooter that goes far beyond what has been released publicly. Can you respond to that, and can you also say what effect that has on either the families of the victims or the public's trust in the law enforcement investigation if what you say contradicts this media or this narrative that's on social media?
Absolutely. Social media is something that, quite frankly, I can't control, and neither can anyone in this room. Everyone in here is a trusted and respectful journalist, and your word means a lot, which is why we're doing our third press conference of the day to get the actual truth out to what has happened. We have a PIO, 3 of them working today to make sure we have information. I will say this. If you're listening to this or you're at home, you're thinking about reposting or sending something that did not come from someone in this room, a trusted and respected journalist, or did not come from us, please don't do that. Because to answer the second part of your question, what that does is it does help erode the trust in this process, and that's all we have.
The police chief there in Madison, Wisconsin, addressing the school shooting at the Abundant Life Christian School earlier today. A teenager and a teacher killed at that school in Wisconsin. The police chief saying that 2 people, though, who were sent to the hospital have been released at this time. A little bit of hope there in the middle of that senseless tragedy. The Hill on NewsNation. Back in a few.
'Tis the season to share the joy with the Instax Mini 40 Instant Camera. With a classic design, you can capture each and every festive moment and print them out on the spot. Make this holiday season unforgettable and gift the Instax Mini 40 Instant Camera. Don't just take, give. Visit instaxus.com to shop.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think that he was treated pretty unfairly.
Joining us now, Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor, host of the Law and Crime Network. Hello, Jesse. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. So, as we saw, whether you love it or hate it, whatever the case may be, whoever the president may be, presidents can pardon whoever they want. That's just part of the job, part of the benefit, if you consider it that. The case, though, for pardoning Eric Adams, if Donald Trump or anyone were to do that, is what, in your view?
Well, first of all, I don't even think he's considering it. I think he's seriously considering it, particularly after what President Biden just did with respect to his son. And that gives him the license and the cover to do it. And remember what he said, and remember what Eric Adams has said. This is politically motivated. And Donald Trump is jumping in it. And look, you don't have to provide a reason for pardoning anybody. President Biden, what was it last week, engaged in one of the largest clemency actions in one day and didn't provide a rationale for all of it. It's one of the privileges and the powers of being the President of the United States, and I think he would have the cover to do it here, saying that it was when Eric Adams started being very vocal about immigration is when the charges came, and I think that's what you might say.
So let me ask it this way. The case against Eric Adams is, how would you describe it?
Corruption, allegedly
no,
corruption.
But I mean, so let me put it this way: the case against him, you think that the prosecution has a case? You think Eric Adams has a good defense against it? Where are you?
So look, I think from just a legal point of view, he has an argument to suggest that these benefits he received would be given to anybody who's of standing and is a politician or is famous. It was nothing nefarious. He wasn't trading in on it. He wasn't doing the bidding of anybody in exchange for these favors. The prosecution has a different favor because they've tied those benefits to actual actions that he took. That's the key. It's not just accepting a travel benefit or a hotel or anything of value. It's what you do in exchange for it. That's the key to a prosecution. So if this goes to trial, it could be a relatively close case, but we'll have to see.
All right. Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor. Thank you, sir. Talk to you again soon. Appreciate it. You too. All right. Host of On Balance, Leland Vitter, joins me live. Hello, Leland.
Always good.
Happy Monday.
And to you.
Eric Adams has kind of been running a Trump playbook on the legal front.
Well, play the victim, blame the prosecutors, say I did nothing wrong. I think what's interesting here is Donald Trump doesn't have to pardon Eric Adams.
Right.
You know that old joke, I have a pen and a phone, that was Barack Obama. One phone call to the Attorney General or to the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, we're done with this, and it goes on ice, right? So there's a lot of different ways that the investigation into Eric Adams could end.
Some of the narrative has been because of the stance that Eric Adams took on immigration, that maybe Trump could look favorably upon that.
Fair. The other way, right, in the other argument for Donald Trump here is it bolsters his argument that Biden was using the DOJ for political purposes, right? If all of a sudden he says, look, it wasn't just me, Donald Trump, who was targeted unfairly. It was other Democrats who spoke out against Joe Biden. Eric Adams, who was targeted, somehow it makes it seem like sort of the attacks on Donald Trump have more validity in terms of Trump's explanation for
Trump today was like, he was treated pretty unfairly because who hasn't gotten an upgrade on travel? I don't know. I don't get one all the time, but
no. And the text messages of we have to make it seem plausible in terms of reimbursements and everything else. That was a little much. Again, though, in terms of crimes in New York, there is an argument that he was certainly subject to a lot more focus. I was just stunned that he was the first mayor of New York ever indicted.
Fair point. Bill O'Reilly coming up on Balance.
We got Bill O'Reilly. He's got a great column out today. We're going to talk about that. And interestingly enough, and I know O'Reilly's listening right now, he was spot on a year ago. We asked him, will it be Biden versus Trump?
Yep.
Will Joe Biden be on the ticket? He said no.